I'm joined today by, I think, probably one of the busiest people in Bahrain at the moment, Shaikh Khalifa, a good friend of ours. Shaikh Khalifa, let's start by looking at liquidity. Liquidity is low. What are you going to do about it?
Well, you started with the hardest question. I think you didn't agree with our set of questions and you started a different question, but that's good.
I'm sorry.
This is definitely not an easy task to do. I mean, if it was an easy task, we would have solved it a long time ago. It's a complex issue. There are many factors, and there was some sort of a snowball effect to the trading volume to become low. But one of the main factors is having the highest dividend yield in the market, while also the lowest price to book value, and that caters to a certain set of investors, the passive investors. So in a sense, that created the market with this market structure. But to change it, you would need to offer solutions both on the sell side and the buy side for it to work. Sort of like an engine. So one initiative alone in the wrong time would not work. So you have to have the right initiatives going at the right time, focusing on both the sell side and the buy side. But to go back to the question, what are we doing on liquidity? We did provide initiatives on the sell side and the buy side. For example, on the buy side, we introduced the new market rules last year, which opened up direct market access. It is a huge milestone in the region, the first in the Middle East. So this direct market access, for example, allow a brokerage house in Saudi, Emirates, or for example, Kuwait, to access or hit our engine directly without the need of a local presence, and you don't see that anywhere else. That definitely lowers the transaction cost. And I want to touch upon the transaction cost. Our focus on lowering transaction costs and not necessarily the spread between bid and ask is for a reason. We have done studies on that part, and I don't want to go too technical on this, but because our mission and vision as a self-regulated organization, we have to balance the business needs and being an SRO to protect investors' right and making sure the issuers are issuing their news or articles in timely matter, or accurate matter. So for us to help investor or to give the investor the opportunity or accessibility is more important than focusing on a technical sort of artificial increase in volume.
Okay. So we were at a panel this time last year.
Yes.
What have been the major changes introduced at the Bourse since this time last year?
Well, I will be very biased. All the projects we have in Bourse are major because we are the backbone of the economy. But yeah, last year there was Extreme, which is a new platform we launched in July or June. July. And that platform is a multi-asset class platform, would allow us to introduce more products, more financial instruments, and also it gives better integration with the post-trade system and so on. But that platform might not be felt by the investors or participants. Maybe the brokers or whoever is here from what we consider them the part of our value chain, they felt the positive change. But on the legal infrastructure, we introduced again, to mention the market rules. It was launched in September, and it offers not only the direct market access, but it offers more opportunities such as REITs, ETFs, and allowing us to introduce those products, ETF, REITs, and so on. Also, murabaha and equities. And for example, the new market rules have already have a positive effect in the market, because we had 14 exempted cases that goes outside the market, and now it's 4 cases to comply with international standards. So that definitely increased the number of transactions within the main market.
Okay, so...
Yeah. But also, sorry, I need to mention one more major change that happened is our shift in focus to investor awareness. And I think that's a very important part of being the capital market of Bahrain, is to, we have a duty or a corporate social responsibility in providing investor awareness. And we did have before the Trade Quest program, which aimed into the high school student and university student. But now we just introduced a program called the Smart Investor. I think everyone can check our booth outside and grab the first magazine, which is a magazine focused to give the investment and saving principles to the youth, elementary school, intermediate school, and that was very important because we believe if we integrate that in their part of growing up, that will definitely have a better effect than someone that already built a mindset that they need to go to the bank every time to do something and there is no other opportunity.
And what do all these changes mean? I mean, apart from you being incredibly busy, you know, what does it mean for the Bourse?
What does it mean? I think it means we passed the stage of creating value or our value proposition. And we're beginning to enter the stage of capturing that value in the market. I think the upcoming project would definitely be felt by the individuals, by the market, and also Bahrain as a whole, or the region as a whole.
Okay. Tell me about BIM. What is it, and what does it mean for companies, growing enterprises? Yes,
BIM is one of the, if not the most important project for me. I really do believe in entrepreneurship. I might not have agreed with some of the discussion that happened before in the panel, because any entrepreneurs need second chances, and banks don't give second chances. So, in a sense, I'm not against the banks, but there has to be the concept of financial gearing. You have to allow the entrepreneurs or SMEs to have a different way of funding. So they should have an access to capital through equity and also the banks. So they build the business around that area. And in that sense, we looked at the Bahrain investment market. It took us more than 4 years to reach this stage. And the reason was we needed to look at all elements. It's not only the regulation, it's the whole ecosystem that we needed to look at. Even the IT infrastructure, legal infrastructure, making sure we're not only, and that's the first thing we said, we're not only launching a market, we are launching an industry. And that's very important to say, because you're not only providing service for the issuers or the SMEs or companies looking in the growth finance sector, but also opens a viable business model for all consulting firms in Bahrain. We made a certain criteria to become an advisor. The issuers needs to go through the advisors and then to the market. So the interaction would be more between the issuer and advisor than Bahrain Bourse and the company. And the reason is we lowered the cost of IPO significantly. We made it even less than going to get a lending from the bank. And thankfully, we don't have in our mission statement profitability, or that would have been something else. But we really focus on providing service and promote the private sector to grow. Now, there are many different elements to look at in BIM, and I'm happy to answer any questions in that regard. Yeah. But BIM is going to be launched in May for advisors, and later on, after the advisors, we will issue the launch date for the market itself.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I have a few more questions for Shaikh Khalifa, but does anybody want to? Yes, sir. Yes, it's coming to you.
Hi, Carlo Cadici, Group Consultant. Sheikh, very good initiatives for what you've been doing. Okay. However, why we are still seeing the market very inactive or dormant, the Bahrain Bourse? Second question is, how do you see the listing market in 15, 16? Let's not talk only about 2015.
In terms of, I would go to the second question, because I think the first question, I tried to give as much as detail as possible at beginning to say that liquidity, I know every time I met or I meet someone, they ask the liquidity, even Euromoney every year. And this is again, Bahrain Bourse cannot do it by itself. It's an ecosystem. There are parties involved, and it's dominated by institutional investors. But you have to look at it from a different point of view. I know some of the issuers love the ideas of having a stable market. GCC is plagued with the domination of speculators. And many of the companies have positive result, and the next day their price drops, which doesn't make any sense for them. But in terms of Bahrain, it's highly stable market in terms of having all institutional investors look at the fundamental analysis rather than speculative news and trends. So, but again, liquidity is not something Bahrain Bourse only look at. We're not only trying to deepen the market. Deepening the market takes a lot of effort from, again, mentioning the engine. There are parts. The sovereign wealth fund, Mumtalakat, is part of them. There are other institutional investors in Bahrain that needs to be more active in the market and not become passive.
That's exactly what we were asking about. Why they are not more active institutional investors? How can we get them to become more active?
I can give an example. In Hong Kong, I think in 1997, when the market crashed, the government bought most of the shares in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And later on, they were sitting on a big lump sum. I think it's above 80. Correct me, someone, if I'm wrong, but it's more than 80% of the market. Then the solution they had is to offer something called the tracker fund. And they brought State Street. I don't know if someone from State Street here, but they brought State Street as a consulting firm to establish this tracking fund. And it was an interesting case study that I've read, because you exit the fund not with cash, but with a proportionate number of shares of the fund that's tracking the index. So you fragmented the investor base this way. There are examples around the world that it happened. Maybe this is something that needs to be discussed, but I don't think it's within jurisdiction of Bahrain Bourse to do so. But again, the examples are out there. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel to solve it. And I go back to what we can do in Bahrain Bourse. Again, we're not trying to deepen in the market only. We're broadening the market. So I'm happy to say, I used to be shy from saying the slogan of Bahrain Bourse, which is now I can say it, an oasis of investment opportunities. And this is where we're heading. We want to provide different opportunities for investors. And I need to mention Sukuk.
Yeah, tell me about the Sukuk.
Thank you.
The government Sukuk.
That's the positive sort of question, Louis. In terms of Sukuk, there has never been a chance for individual investor or retail investor to enter the primary market because of these big walls and complications to enter. And then you need to have a certain threshold. On top of that, you don't get the ownership of Sukuk. You get a beneficiary ownership of Sukuk. You can't have them on your books. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an asset for you. You're only getting the benefits of the turnover of Sukuk or bond or any fixed income instrument. What we did in Bahrain Bourse is bridging this gap of allowing even an investor with 500 BD to enter the primary market. It was challenging at first, but we made it happen. I think it all connects with each other. Having Extreme allowed us, the new platform allowed us to have a complex sort of system where we allowed individual and retail to enter the primary market and sukuk. So the first one I think that we had was in January 16 or 18 this year. And it was the 10-year sukuk, Islamic sukuk from the government of Bahrain with a 5.5 turnover. And I was happy to see there was institutional investors, but there were even more retail investors. So that means it is a very lucrative opportunity. And we've seen many of the funds, saving schemes and other funds or companies, insurance companies, other companies in the market participating in the sukuk as an alternative to diversify their investment. Usually it's only a deposit in the bank, and I would assume the bank doesn't even need more deposit now. So it's good to have alternative. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the principle of investment.
Does anybody else have a question? In the front. Oh, sorry, the second part?
Sorry, I forgot the second part. Yeah. In terms of listing, BIM would be one of the biggest milestones in Bahrain Bourse history, and maybe in the region, because it introduced a very innovative concept. It's not crowdfunding, it's not main market, it's in between. So I think you might need to wait and see all the details. But again, this is where I think our focus on listing. But there are listing of blue chip companies coming up, and I think no matter if the oil price is going up or down, there are other sectors that will target going for an IPO. It's part of the natural life cycle of a company.
So we'll see more IPOs coming up in Bahrain.
Yes, but that's only outlook I can give. I mean, any other outlook would be difficult.
Okay. And a question in the front here. Could I have a microphone?
If it's far away, I can speak. It's okay.
Just in the front here, please. Thank you.
Shaykh Khalifa, thank you for being here. My name is Hassan Jarrar. I'm the CEO of Standard Chartered in Bahrain.
I know you.
Thank you very much. My question is more about the individual investor. I'm comparing it to, having come from the U.S. market, I compare it to the U.S. market, obviously much bigger than any market in this region, but your average household in the U.S. usually owns some sort of stocks. And kids grow up there knowing that savings is not just putting money in the bank, as you so rightfully put it, but becoming an investor rather than a speculator who buys usually on the high when everybody else has already bought, and then all of a sudden it drops and they end up selling and they get a bad taste in their mouths. But how do we establish an investor culture among the youth in Bahrain to actually demonstrate that stock ownership is a very good thing? To my mind, this also will encourage companies to offer dividend reinvestment plans. You know where I'm going with this question. I think it's critical. Everybody is talking institutional investors, but I think our market is still very shallow and very narrow to withstand, an institutional investors or a number of. I'm interested to hear your view.
Yes, I go back to what I was saying in terms of shifting the focus to investor awareness.
Yeah.
And it used to be one single initiative here and there with no bigger picture. And I'm happy to say that that has changed in 2014. And Smart Investor is not only magazines. Smart Investor we would have plays with the characters from the magazines in schools. We would have ambassadors of Smart Investors. And also, we take them in a journey. I mean, the program is not only Smart Investor. Smart Investor by itself is a major program focused on the elementary and intermediate schools. But then as soon as you reach high school and university, you get into Trade Quest challenge. And I suppose many of us here knows what Trade Quest is. because I've seen CVs that they put TradeQuest participant or TradeQuest winner, because they really are proud of that challenge or program. So TradeQuest, they get in touch with the practical element or the realistic element outside of the theory, getting an advisor from the market who's actually working in the market to advise them managing their portfolio. Not only that, they present their portfolio every 3 months, and later on we pick the winner, not only because how well the portfolio is doing, but also how are they delivering, how are they bringing the interest of investors, and so on. Now, I think I need to mention BIBF. We just recently launched a public crash course. And I think the crash course, if you go anywhere else, you would pay not less than 400 BD or 500 BD. But we're offering it for 20 BD, but now it's 50 BD. And we're still losing money, but we are focusing on investor awareness. This public crash course is in English and in Arabic. The English session in the morning and the Arabic session in the afternoon. And there is a reason behind it. So we did study in the market, and it seems most of the English-speaking individuals want the Saturday morning, and most of the Arabic-speaking participant wants it in the afternoon. Anyway, so we launched this course, and I think it has been successful. There are societies that asked us to have a special courses for them, for their employees and members, and we are doing so.
Any other questions from the audience? So, Shaikh Khalifa, let me finish by asking what next? In terms of, so this time next year, what will we be talking about in terms of what's been achieved?
So we are launching REITs next month. That's the closest thing. I think in March we will launch the REITs financial instrument, and in May again the Bahrain investment market, and in September there will be stock lending and borrowing and short selling. And I think that's an important. Anyone in the capital market field understand this is a highly important facility, because it allows a two-ways market, and I'm looking forward to see it implemented.
Great. Shaikh Khalifa, thank you very much. You can all go and grab a coffee, and we'll come back in about 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.